All right. Excuse me. We are so glad that you guys are here. Thank you so much for joining us today while we talk about the impact of the Arkansas Learns Act and what it means for schools and tracking volunteer hours. I hope that your week is going well. I know it's like a crunch time as we wind down for the winter break. So I hope you guys are all doing well today. I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself. My name's Amy Gardner, and I have a real heart for educators, which all of you guys are. My mom was a teacher and then transitioned into working in the office the last 10 years of her career. So I saw firsthand how much teachers and administrators do each and every day. You guys are on the front lines and in the trenches raising up this next generation. And so I applaud you for everything you do, and I know all the work that goes into it. I'm also the proud mom of 2 teenage daughters, and I've watched them figure out the best way to keep up with their volunteer hours, whether that was for college applications or scholarships. They were also really active in a variety of extracurricular clubs that required the tracking of volunteer hours, like National Honor Society, Key Club, HOSA, just to name a few. And so I saw them fight with pen and paper and juggle spreadsheets and want to pull their hair out after trying to figure out a good system for keeping track of it all. And my heart for educators also extends to my own volunteer time, where I've spent many hours in our local schools as our daughters went through each and every one, and looked for opportunities to support teachers in my volunteer endeavors, because like I said, I just love you guys. I think I've got a lot of teachers and administrators in our family, between my mom and my aunts and even my mother-in-law. So kudos to you guys for everything that you do. So now that you know a little bit about me, I would love to get to know about you, a little bit about you. So we're going to put up a poll here. And so if you wouldn't mind taking a minute and let me know what the role is in your school, whether it's a teacher, administrator, guidance counselor, head of school, just let me know. Okay. Thank you, guys. So it looks like a pretty even split between teachers and heads of school. So that's fantastic. And that helps me know the roles that you guys have to be able to tailor this webinar to be able to provide information that'll be important to you in your roles here. So glad you guys could join us. I know that the Arkansas Learns Act encompasses a whole lot. We know it's new, and we know that there's a lot of scrambling for everyone to try and understand what it entails, and that there is concern since it does affect graduation. So what we want to discuss specifically today is how it impacts those high school students and their graduation requirements. So starting now, it mandates that the incoming freshman class, so those students that will be graduating in the 2026-2027 school year, will need to complete 75 hours of community service in order to graduate. It does not specify that a certain number of those hours need to be broken up from year to year, although that is advisable instead of waiting till the last minute, but just a cumulative total of 75 hours. So we're glad that you guys are here and being proactive to ensure that you're planning well, so you develop a sustainable system to easily track these volunteer hours, because right now it might be for 10, 20, 100 students, but over time, those hundreds of students are going to turn into thousands of students, and that year of data this year is going to turn into many years. So we want to make sure that it's not overwhelming and a smooth process for everybody. So while the law is super overwhelming, the data behind volunteering is constant and consistent. So there are many benefits for volunteering. It not only helps students and ourselves, for that matter, with mental and physical health, but it also gives them valuable life experiences. It also provides leadership opportunities and valuable career skills. So I've seen many students through volunteering think that they might have wanted to go into one thing, and after a volunteer experience, they were like, oh, not for me. Case in point, a friend's daughter thought she wanted to be a vet, and after volunteering at the local clinic, she realized that she gets really queasy at blood, and so it was a good experience for her to be able to find out something that would be better suited for her. So volunteering also gets our teens off their phones and engaged in community in a variety of ways. So that is always beneficial too. So I promise I won't do too many polls, but I would like to do another poll and just get a feel for how many of you currently have a volunteer program in place at your school. Totally fine if you don't have one. You can note that too. We've got the option to be able to say, yes, you have one, no, you don't have one, or you're planning on it. So this poll, let's see, we're going to click one more time to see if we can get it to launch, but it is having a little bit of difficulty. We'll give it one more minute, and if I can see if I can get that to pop up on the screen for you guys to answer, but it looks like it doesn't. So if you want to just chime in on the chat and let us know if you have that volunteer program or not, that would be fantastic, or if you're planning on it. All right. Okay, so it looks like some of you have a program in place and some of you don't, and some of you are planning on it. So that seems to be the consensus across the board. So that's great. So what if there was an easy way to be the leader in tracking students' volunteer success without burdening your staff? Because we know we don't want to put any more burdens on an already overworked staff, right? So what if there was a way to validate those student volunteer hours with electronic signatures and the capturing of photos to authenticate their attendance at the volunteer activities? Wouldn't it be nice if when your students are doing their volunteer activities, they can just get approval signatures right then and there on their phone, and also take pictures to be able to share the good things that they're doing? And what if there was a dashboard so that administrators, teachers, and guidance counselors could see in real time when, where, and how many hours your students were volunteering? Wouldn't it be nice to be able to have all that at just the click of a button, where you could recognize who is volunteering the most at your school? And wouldn't it be nice to see where your students are volunteering at the most, to be able to forge partnerships and relationships with those organizations? Well, I'm pleased to share that Givefinity provides many of these benefits and much, much, much more, which we'll get into here real briefly. So the Givefinity solution is kind of a two-part thing. So for the students, it's a really fun, intuitive mobile app where the students will just get to enter their hours. They don't have the hassle of pen and paper, which, let's be honest, oftentimes gets forgotten. Not only is the paper forgotten, or they might forget to get the right person to sign off to validate their hours. But rarely does a teenager forget their phone. They are taking those everywhere they go. But not to worry, if a student doesn't have a cell phone, we know that not all students have access to that. We have the ability for them to log those hours on a web version. So if they have access to a computer at school, they can easily log on and track those hours just like they can in the mobile app. For teachers, administrators, guidance counselors, heads of school, Givefinity is a platform that does not require the installation of fancy software. You simply log in. It's going to capture all your volunteer data in one place. And it's also going to give you the benefit of real-time data to be able to track your students' progress, be able to see and identify if they haven't started any of their volunteer requirements, and all of this without the hassle of data entry that you would have if you were tracking it with pen and paper manually. So using Givefinity is going to help ensure accuracy and accountability with the capturing of those electronic signatures, as well as the photographs to authenticate attendance. That's something with pen and paper that can sometimes be a problem, the forging of the signatures. And so the system helps battle against that. We really enjoy partnering with schools and have had the joy partnering with lots of many different ones. We recently teamed up with Lincoln High School, which is located in Arkansas. And as you can see on the screen, they're really looking forward to reaping the benefits of partnering with us, which is going to provide streamlined documentation, accurate digitized approval processes, and it's going to save a lot of time. And what was really most important to them is they were wanting to make the process really fun and easy, not only for the students, but also the staff. So it's been fun to partner with them. We're grateful for that partnership. Something we never get tired of is hearing how helpful Givefinity is in streaming the volunteer tracking process. We've talked to schools that have 12 to 20 4-inch ring binders on bookshelves in their office, where now they have beautiful things on those bookcases because they aren't having to keep a hold of all those papers because it's tracked, all that stuff is tracked in Givefinity. Just this May, we were talking to a school and they had a graduation requirement of 20 hours for their students. And once those paper forms came in, they realized that there were 8 students that hadn't done any volunteering, which caused a whole lot of headache for the parents and the students and the staff. So they're excited to use Givefinity this year so that they'll know in real time if anybody's lagging behind, so they can give gentle nudges throughout that last semester to make sure all that gets done. And we've also heard from teachers who have regained their lunch periods and after school time where they're no longer having to input any data, which is wonderful. So everybody wins in using Givefinity. The students have a great, easy way to track it on the mobile app. The staff is not burdened with all that data entry. And then the community really benefits because they have students engaged in doing wonderful things. So everybody wins, which is wonderful. So I would love to open it up now for some questions. I've done a lot of talking and I would love some interaction. So if you just take a minute, and if some questions have come to mind as I've been talking, please feel free to put them in the chat, and I'd be happy to go over those. So yeah, it looks like there's a Q&A section or a chat, so feel free to put them in either of those. Okay, we've got some good questions coming in. That's great. How much emphasis is being placed on volunteering to help get accepted into colleges and universities? That's a great question. Having had a daughter that just went off to start her freshman year at the university, I will say there's a lot of questions that these students are having to ask in that Common app. About their volunteer experience, the difference that they made in their community, the impact, and then leadership opportunities. And so I think that there is an emphasis, and I think, you know, as the state of Arkansas has put in legislation, I think a lot of states are going to follow suit because I think they're seeing the value of that. Here's another great question. So can Givefinity be customized to track both the LEARNS Act requirements, but also hours required by clubs like National Honor Society? So good news, yes. So not only if you're tracking your volunteer time at the school level, groups and goals can be set up for other volunteer opportunities. If Student Council has that, if National Honor Society, DECA, all of those can be tracked within Givefinity. So yes, all in one place, which is good. Keep the questions coming. You guys have some good ones here. This is fantastic. All right, we've got another one. Can the student accounts be synced with Google accounts for single sign-on? Thank you for asking that question. So that is something that we are working to do. And so that is on the roadmap and will be coming soon. So good question. We know that those Google accounts and single sign-on are really helpful. Thanks for asking that. All right. Can we load data from volunteer programs that we've already completed with the students? Yes, the good news is if you have that volunteer program in place and you've been tracking those hours, we do have capability to be able to upload that. So you have a comprehensive list for those sophomores, juniors, and seniors, even though the Learns Act doesn't require that. If you want to have it in the system, yes, we can upload past volunteer experiences. Oh yeah, so one other one. Yes, this is a good one. So do you have any good ideas on how our students can volunteer? And I think this is something that has really become prevalent with this Learns Act in how are we going to have opportunities for all the students? And so we've seen a lot of schools with a lot of creative things in making volunteer opportunities on campus that are needed. So something like keeping the grounds kept well, gardening, things like that, as well as partnering with other schools, elementary and middle schools, even in the high school, within the high school, of those tutoring opportunities to help with academics. Food drives and collecting other items that are needed in the community has been something. And I think what a lot of schools are looking to incorporate are student volunteer days. So there's a day maybe every quarter or once a semester where they are just focused on volunteering. And so they can do some things like writing letters to military overseas and different things like that, so that these students have opportunities. So how friendly is the app for students with special needs? You know, that is great. And I'm so glad that you asked. And we are partnering with a company that looks at that to be able to make sure that it is user-friendly for students with special needs. We want it to be accessible for everyone. And another question, can additional sections be added for sorting reports like advisory and homeroom teacher? Yes, we'd be happy to talk to you about that further, about those needs. But yeah, we can sort reports and build it and so that it can be based on advisory and homeroom teacher. I just love all these questions. You guys are doing so well. Is there a student reflection built in for every volunteer opportunity? Yes. So the neat thing is, as these students are entering their volunteer time in the app, as they're kind of finishing it up, it gives the students an opportunity to rate that experience that they had on a scale of a five-star scale, as well as give feedback and review of what they liked, what they really enjoyed, what they got out of it. So we do have a spot for that. And then that can be shared as well to be able to help students that are looking for other volunteers. Any other questions? Any other questions? We have covered a lot of ground. I really appreciate the questions that you guys have provided. Oh, we've got one more question that hopped in. Does a school official need to approve their hours to ensure that they meet the Learns Act? I'm not sure that level of detail for the Learns Act. I will say that within Givefinity, we have the ability for school officials to approve the volunteer time, so that if your school has set up certain things that are allowed and not allowed, you can approve it or not approve it and push a message back to the student to be able to talk about that. So yeah, good question. Awesome. Well, great. Well, we really, really thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us. And we know your time is valuable. And so we'd love to continue this conversation. So on the screen, you can see my contact information. So please feel free to reach out. I would love to meet with you. I would love to hear what your concerns are. If we weren't able to address them here in this webinar, I would love to hear about what your school's doing for volunteerism and be able to support and help in any way. So definitely reach out. We have recorded this, and I will send you a copy of the webinar if you'd like to share it with other people on your staff or other people in schools that you know. And within that email, I'll include a Calendly link. So if you'd like to set up some time with me, like I said, I would love to continue the conversation with you. I'll stay on for a few minutes, and so if there's more questions that you have, again, feel free to pop those in the chat or the Q&A section, and I'd be happy to review those with you. But thank you guys so much.